What is the treasure that is here safeguarded inside?
How we can balance the ecosystem while we do business. This is how probably we are developing the state of Goa, and we are trying to protect the safe of state of Goa. And social license to operate will always come through all these initiatives. Our 3 megawatt of waste heat recovery has grown to 65 megawatt of waste heat recovery power plant. We believe in doing something beyond compliance.
Well, looking around, you must be thinking that I'm wandering in some hinterlands of Goa. Well, that's not the case. I'm at the facility of Vedanta Value Added Businesses, and joining me is Saptesh Sardesai, the CEO for Value Added Business. Sir, welcome to the show. It's fantastic to be in such a green space. How does it feel to be working for such a corporate giant, as well as balancing the act for the ecology?
Thanks, Rohit, and wonderfully articulated. So I think it's a great experience, working for such a huge conglomerate like Vedanta. We believe in touching lives. We believe in giving back to the society. So that is what has been our chairman's vision all around. So we mean business, we do business. We work with metals, we work with mining. But the whole purpose, the whole core why we exist is, again, I'm saying how we can ecologically balance the whole ecosystem. And that's where we thrive doing. And that's where, it gives energy to all of us to be part of these greening initiative or sustainability initiative where we want to green the planet. Right. So that's the motive.
Vedanta, and more importantly, Sezago has always been, taking this initiative, giving back to, the ecosystem that we all thrive in. How do you see this journey of yours, especially at the facility that you have, whether it is this facility that is there, or maybe the dumps have been converted, or whether it is a classic example for entire globe to look out is your Viridi plant, Vidde plant.
Correct. So we started off, our journey now, if I have to go back into history, Sezago started as a predominantly mining company way back in 1954.
True.
And we've always believed in sustainable mining. Now what sustainability means for us is, again, I'm saying, how we can balance the ecosystem while we do business, as I have narrated in my previous interaction as well. So what we've done is, when we started in the mid-90s, so we were one of the first mining companies across the country to have a reclaimed mining and reclaiming the mining in a very, very scientific manner.
True.
So what you spoke about the Viridi mine is typically called our Sankhali Reclaimed Mine.
True.
So we've continued mining there close to about middle of 90s, and thereafter we have gone to a systematic closure of the mine, or systematic reclamation of the mine. So all the dumps were backfilled. We have created bamboo plantations there, but close to about 80 plus species of bamboos we've got there. We've got a bamboo pavilion there. We've got the Nakshatra garden there. We've got the medicinal herbs there. We've got a botanical garden there. We invite people who do research, people who do PhDs, we invite faculty members, we invite students, we invite school students, rather, to come there to add value. We invite people from the mining department, we invite people from the pollution control boards to come there to give us some more insights. And that is how, we like to develop. So we are doing it from the heart. It's not a compulsion at all. Sure. Coming back to this place where we are standing here, this is a broad concept of the Miyawaki plantation. Now what Miyawaki means? Miyawaki is a Japanese technology of fast breeding or fast growing trees, in a very, very dense forest. So it's like creating an artificial forest. We've seen traditional forests where we have across the globe, and these are artificial forests. Now what Miyawaki means and how Miyawaki works rather. And of course, I also learned over the times, and we started this whole thing, what you see in the backdrop is something that we started about 3 years back, close to 2.5-3 years back. Where apart from, our green belt requirements, what we were to do, we said, let us see, how we can do something little differently. One is the traditional way of planting trees and then watering those plants and then taking care of those plants, and then they'll grow at their own pace.
Correct.
Whereas when we did some research, and like-minded people like me and my team sat together, we came across this technique called Miyawaki plantation. So in Miyawaki, what happens is, we go for only native species. It's not typically food growing plants, or it's not about flowering plants, some typical species.
Plants found in Goa or this region.
This region. So native species of this region are picked up and then they are planted very close to each other, And while they are planted very close to each other, it is understood that, they compete with each other in terms of growth. And these are typically all tall growing trees. So they grow typically 10 times faster than the average growth of any other plant while doing so. The leaves, the foliage, whatever falls, forms manure, and it self generates the capacity or the productivity of the soil. And that's how this Miyawaki plantation grows. Now, if you see, in about 2.5 to 3 years, about probably 2 or 3 monsoons, these plants must have grown. These are about 20 meters tall plants that have grown. And this look like a dense forest.
Correct.
In the place very close where we operate a steel plant. So this is the transformation.
True.
And to be frank enough, we were the first in the state of Goa to introduce this particular concept. So it's not a tested, tried concept at all. But we thought, let's invest money. And this comes little higher cost also. Probably the cost also is pretty higher compared to the conventional plantation that we do. But still we thought, as being Vedanta, as a corporate, responsible corporate, how we can still invest, and how we can see that, how we can make the planet more greener, how we can bring a change to the society, how we can bring a change to our thinking, and how we can practically demonstrate to the entire world what we actually mean.
Very true. I think Vedanta has always been spearheading, transforming to the last person who's there being affected or being part of the ecosystem. You rightly mentioned that there is one side there is huge dense forest, and this is I'm telling my viewers, you have a dense forest behind, safely guarded, and maybe 100 meters you have this huge complex of yours, and in the entire system, one side you have the community, other side you have the industrial output that you have, and also giving back to the community, to the society with respect to the green cover that is here. I think this is something that Vedanta is always spearheaded. I really want to know is, has any other mining companies or maybe government officials have come to you and said, okay, this is a classic example and we would like to replicate it elsewhere as well? Because with an example of Vidde mine, entire reclamation, whether it was fishing part of their pisciculture, horticulture, everything has been incorporated. Are you really thinking in terms of incorporating the same thing for all other mines which exist in your periphery?
Obviously. So, whenever a mine comes for a systematic closure, after the logical R&R is probably completed. So, what we would like to do as a responsible, as a responsible mining company, we will always go for a systematic mine closure or for systematic mine reclamation. So, this is one example that we have set for ourselves, and this is what we would like to continue going at as well. Coming back to this Miyawaki plantation also as well, whatever green belt we want to develop in any of our factory sites, we would like to utilize or we would like to conceptualize and bring this particular institutionalize this particular technique going ahead as well. Because this becomes a place of our showcasing also to the community. Coming back to the question that you asked me, whether other people or other factories or other plants have approached. Yes, as I said, Pollution Control Board was the first thing, that to ask me, and then they have promoted actually a mine Miyawaki plantation to all the other companies across the state of Goa. And a lot of pharma companies, lot of other FMCG companies, they have approached us in checking out, what is this Miyawaki. They have come, they have visited here, they have taken insights, and this is how probably we are developing the state of Goa, and we are trying to protect the state of Goa, protect the environment of Goa.
Also, I really want to ask you is, there is one transformation that I've seen maybe over last 10, 15 or 20 years is the dump that you have in your complex as well, where your office is. And I've seen them right from getting dumps to putting a carpet, green color carpet. I thought it was just to cover it for the monsoon, and then it getting transformed into plants. And today it's a beautiful patch. For an unknown person, you wouldn't realize that there exists a dump down, and it has been covered by lush green forest. This is something that I think every individual passing through that road of maybe Sankhali to Ponda or Sankhali to Panjim has always witnessed. Some have seen this transformation and some have seen this beautiful green cover. How does it feel? Any reactions that have come from people over this course of time?
No, definitely. See, one is, again, I go back to sustainability. When we have to build a complex like this, a steel plant that I mean, there is land development that takes place, and we have undulations of land. The topography of the land is very uneven. So there are some excavations that have to be done. Now, whatever excavated soil is there has to be dumped at one place.
True.
So what you refer to dump is the excavated soil, where we are constructing the plant setup, where we are constructing the factory setup, where we are constructing the buildings, which are power the plant and machinery. So this excavated soil has to be dumped at one place.
Yeah.
Okay, this qualifies as a dump. Now, when you have to stabilize the slope of the dump, scientifically what we need to do is the green mat that you referred to is called geotextile.
Yeah.
So it has to be covered. Scientifically, it has to be covered by geotextile so that there is no runoff of the soil in the rains, in the storm water, which doesn't affect the public, it doesn't trouble the public. Tomorrow, because we are very close to the public road. Though we have a proper setback, we have our compound wall. Still, as again I'm saying, as a responsible corporate, this comes within us. I mean, it's all cost. But then there is no compromise to cost, because we know that this is the technology, this is how we can survive, this is how we can sustain. And social license to operate will always come through all these initiatives.
True.
So once this geotextile is laid, what happens is on this geotextile, then we plant fast growing trees or trees, which probably give us a lot of oxygen, and those roots which hold the soil together. So there are typical species like Relicidia, there are drain trees, there are bamboos, which are these typical trees which are grown on those dumps. So for an outsider, it looks like a lush green curtain, natural curtain, which also isolates our operations from the public.
Very true. I have seen bamboo plants, I have seen certain species which I can maybe identify while traveling. I really want to ask is, what is the treasure that is here safeguarded inside? Is there any specific plant species that are there which you have maybe experimented in terms of newer thing, or is it something that is out of the box?
Yeah, so there is no special species here. As I said, these are all native growing species. If you see,
If you can name some so that we can identify.
So there is jamun, there is teak. So there are all these jungly trees. There are some mangoes you will find inside. You will find some jackfruit trees inside. So all these trees are there. They say badam trees are there. Rain trees are there.
Sure.
So all these trees they coexist. They grow together, and these are all trees which can survive together. So that is how these trees are planted. They are planned and they are planted in this Miyawaki forest. Now, why this particular barricade or why this particular thing? If you ask me, this was done initially to avoid the cattle coming into and spoiling when they were very small in the initial spot. So now this actually is not required. So now it can self-grow, self-expand. So this is the whole concept.
Okay, when we talk about industry, we talk about economy. We always consider one term which pops up is carbon footprint. Now, when it says carbon footprint, a lot of people wouldn't understand what it means. With these kind of initiatives, you're kind of getting carbon neutral for your company or yourself. How are you looking forward? This is one set of example that you have done. You started in late 90s and still continuing your efforts to giving back to the society. How are you looking forward with respect to reducing carbon footprint, yet having the economy stable and yet producing and having this ambitious goal of maybe employment, job, GDP, XYZ that comes all in the part of this vicious circle?
It's a very important and very touching question, Rohit. So one is this part of afforestation that we do, in improving in reducing our carbon footprint and getting closer to the planet. On the industrial side or on the factory side also, probably what we do is, let me tell you. So when we started here, in 1991, this particular complex started close to about 1990, 1991.
Yeah. About
30-35 years back. So we had a small 3 megawatt waste heat recovery power plant, 3 megawatt capacity. Today, if you ask me, while the complex has grown, our 3 megawatt of waste heat recovery has grown to 65 megawatt of waste heat recovery power plant. So whatever waste heat or surplus heat that is generated in our processes, we are utilizing inside, again, which calls for an investment. We are generating waste heat recovery power, which is green power, to the tune of 65 megawatt, out of which about 50% of the power is in-house consumed. Balance power we wheel to the state government or the state grid under a long-term arrangement with the state government. So today my entire complex, whatever energy is used, all is green power or generated from my green power. So I am not using any fossil-based or any carbon.
So your plant is Atmanirbhar or Swayamburnam already?
Absolutely. My plant is entirely Atmanirbhar as far as the power consumption is concerned. So that is one part of the initiative.
Yeah.
Apart from having this, we are also investing into solar. So I have recently commissioned a 100 kilowatt solar power plant. We're also looking at some more lands, because land is another requirement that we have for solar. So how we can increase our solar footprint also. So this is how, these are small initiatives we are taking at the factory side also to be carbon neutral. Again, at a blast furnace, which uses a lot of carbon in terms of coking coal, which is converted to metallurgical coke. So we use the coal as well as we use metallurgical coke, which is the main carbon. So we've tied up with IIT Mumbai under a long-term MOU. So under the MOU, we are doing some studies of how you can replace this carbon economically as well as on a commercial basis with hydrogen as a fuel. Because this coke or carbon acts as a reducing agent, which same thing can be replaced by hydrogen. We can again be edge towards the carbon neutrality. So this is something that we are doing still into prototype stages, but we will see the ray of hope. I mean, we see the ray of light probably very soon. So that is how we feel on the commercial side.
I am tempted to ask you one question is with the resumption of mining and now after almost a decade, there are certain other industries, newer industries coming. There are some are old, are phasing out. The biggest question is, is logical and community sustainability is something that we always talk, debate, discuss, argue. You may name it and we have it. How are you looking forward with respect to both logical in terms of aspiration and also community growing together so that, both these things work in harmony? And over a course of time, we've seen this in all of your operational spaces that, maybe you or maybe Vedanta has taken over.
Yeah. Again, see, when we say logical versus community engagements as far as the sustainability or the CSR initiatives are concerned, both go hand in hand. They have to be very, very interdependent.
Correct.
This is how because one is what we think and one is what the society needs.
Correct.
So we go about doing the assessment surveys. We go about checking out what is actually required in the society that we operate, in the community that we operate. Because other than this, we cannot have a barrier, in my thinking versus what the community demands.
True.
So basis all this, we have projects like Gram Nirman. Now Gram Nirman works in a variety of program or thematic areas, including agriculture, back to farming. It works on education. It works on women empowerment. It works on livelihood empowerment. It works on the sector of health. We have our CMC. We operate CMCs or community medical centers. So this is with 5 or 6 thematic areas which aligns well with our logical reasoning as well as the community demands. And that's where we've been trying to think this together. And that's why we are getting very good feedback also from the community. Because our success in any of the community initiatives that we drive is the community feedback that we get. And that's what is our indicator, of our success or our failure.
I think Saptesh Bab, I think you are one of the most happiest person I've ever met with respect to the having smile, and also considering that the team supports and the kind of cause that you are going ahead with respect to the Vedanta's value added business. Any final thoughts that you'd like to tell your peers or maybe the authorities that you're listening to, or maybe the community, so that the industry can grow, one, and also the community along can grow, because that is also a major part of the story.
Rohit, see, only one thing I can tell, the larger audience or the larger community or my peer companies here, is that one is, of course, compliance. We do for the sake of compliance. But we believe in doing something beyond compliance. And I believe, anything like this or a complex like this can come up, can sustain for a longer duration, only and only if, we can do everything with passion. Passion is very important. Something is that you do as a compliance, something you do out of your heart. So when you put your heart and soul into something that you do, I think something like beautiful like this will come up, which will sustain for our future generations to come. This is only what I want to tell my larger audience.
I think this is one of the finest conversations that I have had in an urban oasis, very close to the industry and yet having a green patch. Saptesh Bab, it was a pleasure. I'll remember this for a long, long time.
Thank you, Rohit. Thank you, Rohit. Pleasure this side.